Right. And, yep, she's amazing, that's for sure. She's my star power. All right. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Helotes City Council, September 8th, 2022. It's time is 7 p.m. At this point, we'll have you stand for the invocation. We have Pastor Kyle Volkmer from Gateway Church to give our invocation. Please rise.
The prayer this evening will be out of James chapter 3. But the wisdom that comes from above is first pure, peaceable, gentle, and willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Lord Jesus, we thank you for wisdom that comes from above. We pray that every one of us would look to you, God Almighty, for wisdom that comes from heaven to be able to judge righteously and to execute your will on the earth. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And now at this point, we're going to have invite Kendall and Aaron Kelly to come up. They're going to help lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. Yes. All right. At this point, we have a public hearing, two of them, as a matter of fact. The first one will be a public hearing to give all interested persons the right to appear and be heard on the proposed fiscal year 2023 City of Helotes operating budget. And we'll open this public hearing at 7:01. Do we have anybody speaking on the public hearing?
No, Mr. Mayor.
None signed up, okay. Then we will close also at 7:01. At this point, we're going to open the public hearing to give all interested persons the right to appear and be heard on the proposed 2023 City of Helotes Economic Development Corporation operating budget. We'll open this at 7:02. Do we have anybody that wants to speak in public hearing
No, Mr.
on this
Mayor.
budget? Nobody signed up. And so we will close at 7:02. Must be everybody did a good job on their budgets. At this point, we're going to go to citizens to be heard. We have one person signed up, Melody Cooper. Come in, go ahead and state your name and your address for the record and have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council. My name is Melody Cooper. I live at 14803 Cross XD Trail in Helotes. My husband and I have a business at 12682 Old Farm to Market, 1560 North, Suite 104. So I am speaking in opposition to your agenda item number 10. With my business, which is a dry cleaning business, convenience is very, very, very important for our industry. People, unfortunately, don't want to stay and chat and have a good time. They want to get in and get out. So the implementation of the dead end of Old Farm to Market 1560 in front of City Hall did not improve on the convenience of my business, and it affected my sales back then. And then, of course, we had the drop in sales with COVID. Now I'm looking at another hit on convenience for my customers. So several of my customers are senior citizens, and several of my customers are also, I can't say men, but just persons that have big trucks. Men or women have big trucks and do lease trucks. So parking into this parking lot is very challenging. And so we have found that many of them like to park across the street and in a parallel fashion. So it's my understanding that the problem right now that you're looking at is that some vehicles are parking going into across the street in the grassy knoll, And I'm just suggesting if we could kindly consider parallel parking on both sides of the street. This would help my seniors as well, and this would help a lot of our customers that drive big trucks. I personally would love to see the same design that you have in Old Town that kind of makes it look, cohesive, that with that nice big brick curb that you have and everything. I've spoken with the landlord about beautifying that all up, but I don't know who does what and who gets to do what, but that's my suggestion is please consider, rather than a no parking zone, that you please consider a parallel for both sides. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else signed up for online comments? Okay. We'll close the open session. At this point, we'll go to the consent agenda. We're looking for a motion and a second for consent agenda items number 5 through 7. And unless there's something anybody wants to pull for further discussion? No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve consent agenda items 5 through 7.
Motion by Sanders, second by
I'll second.
Merchant. With no discussion needed, all in favor of approving consent agenda items number 5 through 7, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. At this point, it comes to the mayor report. And prior to giving my report here, there are two things I'd like to take as a point of interest. Number one is that we have unfortunately suffered a significant loss in the city of Helotes with the death of Henry Zumwalt. And just wanted to publicly acknowledge nearly every single chapter in Helotes history has his name written all over it. Incredible contributor to our community, and he will be missed and mourned. Additionally, if you don't mind, we shall also take a moment of silence for stand for the passing of Queen Elizabeth passed today. So if you don't mind, we'll all just stand and just take a moment of silence for Queen Elizabeth. And for Henry Zumwalt. Thank you. As far as the mayor's report, we're going to talk a little bit today about Helotes music and movie night. I know we've been bantering around with movies and experimenting with the demand, and it's kind of not been a lot of demand for it, but we're putting together a special event here. It'll be happening on September 17th at 7 p.m. at Helotes City Hall here out in the background. We'll have the Helotes Community Band playing, and then after that, we're going to have a movie, and I believe the movie is
I can't say it. Encanto.
Encanto. Right on, Mr. Encanto. Okay, additionally, we have September 24th, happy to announce we have the Community Education and Services Day. We're partnering with Frost Bank on Saturday the 24th from 9 to 11 a.m. here at Helotes City Hall. And so please come out and join in for that. You can find more information on our website for sure. At this point, we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 9, looking for a motion and a second to discuss and take action on item number 9 as written.
Mr. Mayor, I move we discuss and take action on agenda item number 10.
This will be number 9, is Sanders, and second by
Number 9.
I'll second it.
by Solons. Okay. Councilman?
So there's only really 2 people that I knew on this list. So this makes this really hard, and I'm sure it's kind of the same for my colleagues. I don't know how we want to actually figure out who we collectively want to go forward with. I will say this, the 2 people, obviously, that one of the people we all know is Marion for place 8 and our city administrator. And I also very happy to support Mary Dennis, place 7, who's the mayor of Live Oak. I got to meet her on several occasions, and I'm very impressed by her. So anyways, I'm gonna look to city staff, and how, do you want us to all go down and give our vote for all 4 places? Or do you want me to go forward and say, here's the 4 people that I want to vote for, and we approve or disapprove?
Let's go ahead and do this place at a time. So let's talk about place 6. We have 2 candidates. Allison Hayward was the council member for City of Schertz, and Kimberly Meismer, Assistant City Manager for City of Kerrville. Does anybody have any specific personal interaction with either of these 2 candidates? And my understanding is we're not required to submit an actual vote on any particular one. So if we don't have somebody, we can defer. As a big fan of being an educated voter, I would much rather defer if we don't have any specific information than just vote randomly. But does anybody have any? Okay. Maybe you might want to, we can make a secondary motion to suggest one or the other, or to
So
abstain
I would like to
from place
amend my
6.
original motion for the council to consider approving the nominee for place number 8 as Marian Mendoza.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
Yes. If
I made
I'm,
the original motion, so I should be able to amend it.
yes, you can.
Yeah, so, okay, hold on.
Let's
We're at place 6.
Yeah, we're
So
at place
gonna
6.
do it
Let's hold off on amending your motion for just a second, if that'd be
I
okay.
thought we were skipping the other places. Okay.
Well, I don't know. We only know that nobody knows anything
So
about place
if
6.
there's no name drop for place number 6, is the agreement that there's no vote being cast for place number 6, and then we go to place number 7?
I can agree to that.
So nobody wants to vote for anybody in place number 6?
I mean, other than the information I'm given here,
No? Okay.
I don't-
So there's no
I don't-
vote.
I think what we'll do is we'll go place by place, and then
Yes.
you can submit an amended
Yes.
motion for abstain, or whatever we're gonna do on that. So let's take a look at 7. Is there anybody in particular 7?
Yeah. I move that,
Well, it won't require a move, just on a discussion basis. Is there anybody in particular in 7 that you have?
Yeah.
yes, Mary Dennis, the mayor of Live Oak.
Okay.
Okay.
I concur. She's got,
She did a lot of my onboard training live when I became a councilman. She did more than just the introductory stuff. She actually got involved. I've done a little bit of homework on her as well, and I think she's a great candidate. Plus, she's the incumbent too. So
And I voted for her too, based on all the descriptions, so second that.
okay. Anybody have any other comments on anybody for place 7?
no, I can support her.
I can support her as well.
Okay. Moving on to place 8, is there anybody outside of Marian Mendoza that we would like to consider supporting?
I'm going to think there's deep thoughts here.
Marian, you still want to be involved in it?
I do.
Okay. And for place 9, is there any particular inputs?
I don't, these people.
Again, this is something really doesn't get into our region as far as, okay, so it may be my suggestion for you to consider amending your motion to offer an,
Mr. Mayor?
yes,
We don't have to amend it. The way that the agenda caption is written, it encompasses places 6 through 9.
indeed. Okay, so for place 6, we can do this individually. We're all in favor of no one? Okay, and place 7, no one, and place 8, Marion.
Place 7 is Mary Dennis.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Mary Dennis.
Yes.
Place 8, Mary Mendoza. Place 9, abstaining. All in favor of that outcome, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We will submit those votes to Tomorrow. Thank you very much for that. Okay, this moves us on to item number 10. Looking for a motion, a second, to discuss and take action on item number 10 as written.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item number 10 as written.
I'll second that.
Okay, Councilmember?
I would like to ask Josh to come and talk to us about this because, thank you also, Councilmember Sons, for going to the businesses and asking a business owner to come and talk. I know that the parking there has been so limited. It's so limited there. It's so hard to get in and get out. And that's why the people park where they do park. And so I always think it's kind of unsightly to see all the cars in the triangle part. I don't see where there would be a problem parking on the sides in front of, the parking area and the businesses. The other thing is, what about a sign that says, rather than no parking at any time, maybe like 15-minute parking or 10-minute parking, like really quick parking, and they have to get out. They can't be in there longer than a few minutes.
So that's a common practice in many places to put a time limit of parking. The enforcement of that's kind of tricky, but we don't actually have any time limited no parking areas in our city now. We just have designated no parking areas, so it'd be a new ordinance that would need to be written.
Okay.
I'd like to jump in. So what Melody Pope suggested could work as a parallel. The problem what they're doing is a lot of them are doing front end and they're sticking out, especially those dualies. And we've had incidents where we've had it on both ends where they stick out, especially when it rains and there's that ditch and they don't want to go further up into that triangle. So what happens is anyone leaving City Hall ends up having to go into the other lane or going in the middle of the lane to get around them. So that's where the safety traffic hazard is. The parallel, and plus when they're backing out, they're not watching anyone coming either way. And so a collision can occur at that point because of the way they back out. So parallel parking, we already have parallel parking on the side of the businesses. We had no parking at one point, and when about 2 years ago, we pulled that up and allowed parallel parking because we saw the need for that.
So that's not we're not talking about that.
No,
we're just talking about the triangle.
Yeah,
But
and it was the same issue then. There was parking issues. People were parking just on the side of the road. There was big holes and mud mess, and it was always just a big mess right there. So we went ahead and did parallel parking on the west side, and then we paved it so that it would be easily maintained, so to speak. So that's kind of what we were looking at.
I'm wondering if maybe the solution here is, instead of a no parking zone, really just, number one, I feel like we could probably take a look, Josh, and see what we can do to repair the side of the road where it's been eroded away, on the business side. And then on the other side, at the same time, maybe scrape away a little bit into that triangle area and then put an actual curb so that it could only be, and take a look at that. And in that case, what we might consider, if that's amicable to everybody, we could table this at this time until we can maybe take a look at a different solution as opposed to necessarily approving.
I had Josh look into what it will cost and how many people can parallel, so he can be ready for this meeting.
Yeah, so Marion asked me to take a look at it today. We looked at the right of way, we looked at the what's ours, what's TxDOT's, what parallel parking spot footage would require. If we did do parallel parking, we would be able to stay within our right of way and not impose on TxDOT. If you did vertical parking, some of it would probably impose on TxDOT right of way, which we do not want to even consider at this point. We could fit 9 spots from end to end there. It would roughly be about 1,512 square feet of parking. To pave that and build it like a paved parking spot like what we have in Old Town, similar to that, would cost us around $10,000. That's pavement and that's curbing. I would recommend, if we are going to do parallel parking, to do curbing, because then if not, you're going to have just people pulling off into the grass like we are now. But if we did the work in-house and we scheduled it for this next fiscal year, we could probably get it all done for about $10,000, curb it, stripe it, and do parallel parking. And while we're there, we might as well maintain anything on the east side of that as well. It'd be insignificant.
Business side?
The business side. There's only one spot there that's not paved, and it's closer
There's some huge giant potholes in there.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
we could fill and just,
We
especially if
fixed those
if
once.
we're bringing new pavement on one side, we could fill up, compact, and pave that over there
Yeah,
as well.
we'll just do it all at one time. That's probably material costs, about, you know, my exact number was $9,815. And then, of course, labor and equipment, but that would be,
So as this is written
Negligible.
for this portion, which would be sub-item number 1, for
remove-
expenditure, we would need to bring that back as an item for,
Well, we could talk about it at budget, the next item, 11 on budget. That's where you can bring that part up. But on this one, instead of tabling, you could actually just remove that top one itself, because you don't have to do an ordinance for parallel parking.
so let's continue on with anybody else that has comments on line item 1.
I guess the only thing I would add is that parking is used a lot too when there's voting. You know, big national elections in City Hall, we've got people lined up. So it's not just the businesses that need that as well.
And I think the 9 would actually give you more room, because the head-on, they're getting about 7, and then the last 2 to 3 on each side, the last 2 on this side and 1 on this side is who sticks out. So actually getting it paved correctly, because they don't seem to be using there's not enough width to do head-in, that's why they don't use the ends. But doing parallel will actually having 9 spaces would definitely help with all that.
And I think the business owners I talked to this morning, and it wasn't by far all of them, would probably be okay with it, but they were very concerned about how this read because it was none. Like,
I read this
Zero,
as none
so-
and 0.
Right,
So-
and wherever we put the
so
signs,
this
yeah.
is better than none.
Right.
Well, it's better, not only better than none, but now we're talking about bringing up repair and enhancement and curb and
Making it look better.
Making it look better,
nice, which is,
It's the entranceway to City Hall, for goodness sakes.
it is the entrance to City Hall as well, too, so.
So, I guess, do you have any comments, sir?
Yeah, I'm glad how things turned out this way, so I wasn't going to support it as written. But in terms of the sign, the note that I had was, in just adding on to how we're now talking about parallel parking, the pedestrian crosswalk type signs or anything, or would those be relevant or applicable or necessary if we're going to formally put parallel parking on that side?
we don't currently have any pedestrian warning signs on old F-1560, but adding that as part of the scope of work is, you know, it's a 30-minute hole in the ground, so we can actually do that if that's something you feel is necessary. It's not necessary to do the traffic code because of the volume of pedestrians and the volume of cars.
Okay.
But if we want to do it for safety reasons, that's absolutely doable.
That was it.
That might be a good question for the businesses. You know, how many people are crossing that street with small children or elderly, or where a crosswalk would be helpful.
We have similar signage in Old Town, and that's the only place in the city that we do have that, other than a couple of school zones, so.
All right, well,
The thing that jumps out at me is that we have police officers drive by there every day. If these vehicles are in fact hanging out in the road, wouldn't our officers say something or cite them?
Most of the time, they're not in the road, most of the time, they're in the right of way.
Right, so actually what we're talking about here is something that's unsightly and not obstructing or safety violation? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, the thing is that when you have 1 or 2, you're right, they're just in there. But when it seems like there's certain days, and I don't know if it's the CrossFit or whatever that has classes, and so there ends up being like 7 to 8, and so the last couple of 2 on the right, and the last one on the left, and the reason is because there's a ditch, and so they can't pull all the way through, and then the other one because of the space. So that's when those actually hang out into the street area.
So that was when, like, won't the police officers see this and like cite them?
Yes, I mean, they could. It wasn't something that has been implemented or doing, and so,
It seems like it would be a whole lot cheaper than $10,000. There's that, and then there's also, like, if there's truly a parking issue here, and there is, and I like the ideas here that we've come up with. I mean, I can support that. Like, what if we also demolished the condemned building at the end of the road and made a parking lot?
Well, we actually use that
I know,
building
but it's
right
like-
now,
but it's
so,
Condemned,
Yeah.
we just created a,
yeah.
So I think,
Which condemned building you
you're
talking
talking
about?
about the old fire
the
station?
old fire station,
Oh.
the public works.
Yeah, the problem
Is
is
it
that
condemned?
we don't have a space right now to actually put something, so that could be something in the future, to look at, because we'd have to find actually space to move
I
all
can
that
tell
stuff.
you that the fire department won't like having
Well,
parking
there's-
there. They won't be able to
Yeah,
get
they won't be
out.
able to come out.
Well,
That's a real safety issue there.
that's why I mean,
Well, for demolition and
That's
whatnot, and take a
expensive.
look at that, we can bring that up as an
Yeah, yeah,
additional item.
we really can.
But right now, we really need to focus on, are we going to make this a no parking zone? Or are we going to take that line out for right now and come back with, which something I think we can do
Yeah.
under
Just direction,
administratively,
yeah, just.
in our budget to be able to fix the streets.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of making it all no parking. I like the solutions we discussed, and so that's what I want to look at.
Okay. Let's go on and talk about line item number 2. This is a line of sight issue in the Walmart, basically headed down and in between the Walmart and the strip center over there. We're getting a lot of tractor trailers, as you can see from the pictures that are parking there. Upon a little bit of investigation, it's actually, I used to drive tractor trailer, my dad used to drive tractor trailer, and sometimes you just get there in the middle of the night and you line up there at 4 o'clock and you're not supposed to unload till 7. And they're very prompt on that and like, okay, where am I gonna go for 3 hours? What it's turning out is that that's actually not Walmart trucks. Those are just random trucks coming off the highway and like, hey, we know this quiet place we can go and stop and sleep. And so Walmart has told us that we got room in their back for their trucks and their delivery people. That is not their delivery people. It does create an issue for fire trucks not being able to get through there, especially when there's one on each side of the road. There doesn't appear to be a need to have parking there when we've got parking lot on both sides that are not anywhere near filled to capacity. So with that, going to Councilmember Massey, do you have any comments on line item number 2?
Yeah, I guess I park there because it's just easy to park there on the side and rather than to go into a parking lot. Are truck drivers not allowed to go into private business parking lots to park?
Not to park like for long periods, they should only be parking there for delivery. But the ones, when we asked Walmart and then we asked the businesses that get deliveries, are any of those your trucks to be able to deliver? And they said no, because all the deliveries go in the back. There's a drive-through in the back area to dump. And then Walmart actually has their area and their slots to be able to, if they get there early. So none of those trucks or anything delivering in that area. They're there actually to park. Now, we've had to have police officers go because we have an ordinance that doesn't allow overnight parking. So until they get to a certain point of time, then they can ticket and cite. But we don't have an ordinance that doesn't allow 18-wheelers to park in our business.
Essentially, it's basically being the equivalent of somebody pulling up with the towing camper and just camping out overnight. It's a random traveler just going there, they're not coming to the Helotes, they're not destined to the Helotes, they're just gonna set up shop and overnight camp and then take off in the morning, is what it's being used for. Putting a no parking stripe in that area does not affect any of our Helotes residents, doesn't affect any of our Helotes businesses, doesn't affect any deliveries. It only affects transient traffic looking for a place to camp.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's kind of where that's how I'm leaning as well. That's how I've been thinking. I'm just trying to figure out why they would come through Helotes. I mean, there's a lot of other places.
Councilmember Massey, may I?
Sure.
So there's an app. Our friend is a truck driver and they will mark like Waze apps, you mark. And so they will mark good places to stop.
Oh,
And
So
that's
on
been,
where
I
I'm
pretty
at.
much guarantee that maybe on an app or word of mouth, I don't know. But I've had trouble at that Walmart. It's a real problem. I'm like holding my breath because I've got 2 semis and I'm pulling out trying to make a right-hand turn.
Yeah.
So from a standpoint of a motor vehicle, I understood why this was written the way it was.
Yeah, well, this one, I'm much more apt to vote for this no parking on this particular area, rather than the one we just talked about, so.
Okay, well, let's, thank you for your comments. Let's go to Councilmember Stones. Do you have any additional comments? You're for, or,
I'm for it as a motorist in Helotes. You know, I understand, I support truck drivers, I am thankful for them. I want them to have places to park, but that is not a good spot for them to be. It's a matter of time before there's an accident of somebody pulling out with the blind spots.
Yeah, we've had a lot of citizen complaints over just the last 6 months. It wasn't bad, but I think more truck drivers, like you said, are now aware of it. So now it used to be just a couple closer to the cul-de-sac. Now it's actually going further towards Leslie Road.
Okay.
And when I talked to Chief Hunley about it, he said, we have the overnight ordinance, but we have no ordinance to ticket them, right? So
Right.
this is why it's needed.
Okay.
any other comments?
So, yeah, the kid's pediatrician's over there, and I actually, now that you mentioned it, last 6 months, going all the way out to Leslie, and it's not just, you know, I mean, as a motorist, obviously, yeah, it's a concern. But when I take them to the pediatrician appointment, it's also around the same time that all the O'Connor students are walking around that area. So it's super dangerous. And if those aren't Walmart or other, you know, businesses, I think this is super appropriate for that specific area over there, just by personal observation.
Sir?
Yep, agreed. I'm good.
Okay.
Agree with everyone.
So, I have to dig deep into my Robert's rules of order. We're gonna separate, we can,
Entertain an amended motion, and that amended motion would be to approve only the,
line item 2.
Okay.
only the
Right.
no parking anytime.
And business Parkway.
Yes.
That's me.
Two.
isn't it? I would like to change my, or
Amend.
make an amendment to this, saying only that, to approve number 2, to make the number 2 line of sight obstruction, and for, what is it, the sign to go on
No
there, on
parking
business,
anytime.
no parking anytime on Business Parkway,
Only.
only.
All right, and because it was the maker of the motion we need to, Stones, you, also approve the second for that
Second
amendment?
that.
Okay. With the motion amended, all in favor of approving item number 10 for the elimination of line item 1 with the approval of no parking for zone for line item 2 as amended, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This brings us to our final item of the evening, which will be item number 11, which is a discussion on the proposed fiscal year 2023 municipal budget. There's no action on this item tonight. It will be brought for action at our next meeting for adoption, but this last opportunity to include or discuss anything that you've been thinking about on the budget, anything that's come up. I guess we can start, Councilmember Massey, we'll start with you and just kind of roll down the line. Any?
I don't have any, I just asked Marion if there was any big changes, and she mentioned a few things.
Yeah, a few things out after everybody discussed it, I'm
Yeah.
gonna add, it's very, well, I'll do it now. Very minor, we got workman's comp increase, so I need to put those numbers in there and let you see it. Also, while looking at that, we talked about the $100 dependent premium, and because we're getting 5 more people, I'd like to maybe add, because I don't know what they're gonna pick. I don't know if they're gonna pick, I know the ones that are here, but I don't know if they're gonna pick dependent care or not. So I need to ensure that that is covered if they do. So I need to add about 8,000 into that to ensure that those 5, just in case they pick it. If they don't, then we don't spend the money. And then also, the other amount is ensuring that each of the departments have about, $5,000 each, or 6,000 each extra, so if they hire someone that has more experience, they're not hiring at a lower rate. They have that ability to ask for a little bit more, or to offer a little bit more in the salary. Because you might have an officer or somebody that has 15 years experience and you don't want to start them at a lower base.
Yeah, so the easiest explanation of that is, for example, a firefighter that's coming over at entry level, but they also have their paramedic certification already, so they're higher and more experienced than somebody that's just coming right on, just give a little flexibility within the department to have just a little bit of flexible room.
Right, so that total will be about 46,000 altogether for the whole budget. That would be the difference. And then if we decide on, I'd have to get with Josh to see if there is enough money in the street maintenance line item. If there isn't, I'd like to add that $10,000. So it'll be a total of 56,000.
Could not the street repair that we're talking about, couldn't come out of what our sales tax is?
No.
No, sir. It has to be existing at the time it's passed.
Josh?
So, I'm sorry. Anything we use street maintenance sales tax on has to be existing at the time of passing that ordinance. So it would be, if we built it now, when we passed it next time, we can then use street maintenance sales tax to maintain it, but you can't use street maintenance sales tax to construct.
To build it, to construct it.
But is not the maintenance of the curb, at least on the business side, an existing parking area that we're maintaining, and the current dirt is not adequate, so we're having to come back on compaction? At least that portion? Something to look at, but in the middle time for our budget purposes, I would like to include a $10,000 allocation for figuring that out, unless there's any opposition to that
And then
process, and we'll look and see if there's anything we can squeeze out of the road.
From my standpoint, the city attorney says it's good, I'm good.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
We'll work on that. So a worst case scenario of roughly $10,000, we'll figure that in there between now and the next meeting. All right, at that point, you said you had no additional items, Councilman?
Nothing. I'm good. Nothing.
Quite possibly the shortest budget discussion in the whole process. Of course, it ought to be, given the due diligence you all have put. I'd like to take this moment just to give another word of appreciation to Marion and staff for all the hard work that's going in through there. Regardless of the hours of calculations I do myself, it pales in comparison to all the stuff that they're doing on an ongoing basis. I'd also like to appreciate our council members. You don't rubber stamp anything. And I'd like to declare to anybody that's listening, our two viewers, and hopefully hundreds that look this up and watch it tomorrow.
You'd be surprised.
And I know they're out there, and that's why I say this. This council is not a rubber stamp council. We often vote together similarly because of the work that has been done, and we ferret out what the problems are. And so I appreciate each one of you and your comments, whether they line item agree or disagree with each other or me or whatever. The point is not to be in agreement on absolutely everything, but to come together with what is the best possible solution as a whole. And you guys have done an incredible amount of work, and I just want to thank you individually and as a group for that. With that, we are going to adjourn, and it is 7:37.